Hey there. I was about to start doing a new video, and unfortunately I got interrupted. And this is what I spent the last few hours doing. Let's see now, full screen here. See, I just deleted a picture. Yeah. I wasn't being very careful, I guess, and well, I lost all of the documents I had under my documents directory. That's okay, but I managed to get most of the pictures back. It was mostly pictures anyway, so that's pretty good. Thanks, Microsoft, for destroying all my documents that I prepared. Luckily, some of them are in here. Some of my documents. Now, I'm not sure what I definitely have to do. You see, I never delete permanent. I always recycle them, right? And I had done that, and then I went empty recycle bin because now that's become a habit, right? Instead of double checking and ensuring and then going through the list of directories and making sure that only the thing I deleted was gone, it's now become a habit for me to simply empty the recycle bin and I'm back to the same situation. But one way I could protect myself is to make every single directory read-only, except for maybe some of the debug output directories, those temps that get created by the compiler. So then I'm going to get an alert. I'm going to get an alert on every attempt to delete a directory, and if I see that I meant to, I should only get one alert and I get 10, then I know something's gone wrong, and then I go to recycle bin restore. That's what I'm going to have to do, and make it a habit too. Every now and again, I'll make a batch file that just walks the entire directory tree and marks each directory as read-only. This is vulnerable. All of my source and all that work and everything is vulnerable. I'm always, deleting things, files and things from here. But I don't know, you can never tell what internally has been selected when you press the delete key, and you can't even tell even by the message. This time the message said, "Are you sure you want to delete such and so? These 3 items." There were 3 items selected, and I said yes, but instead it deleted those 3 items and the root. I had selected 3 items in this folder, right, which had a bunch of other stuff as well. It's all gone now. I selected them, I pressed the delete key, it asked if I wanted to delete 3 items, and the 3 items I had selected, and it deleted every single item from the entire tree. Then I immediately went to, knowing that I'd only deleted 3 things, I just went and emptied the recycle bin. Then I had to download a system recovery program, thank God one exists, to recover my documents. Now it's too late. I'm going to have to go and have supper, and I'll continue on this when I get back. Well, you won't notice any difference. Okay, just got back from eating, and everything is almost back to where I was earlier in the day. With a couple entries in here disappeared. Everything else seems fine. And in fact, In particular, this one, which I want to take a look at yet again. This image, by the way, is that's actually how I noticed my documents directory disappearing. I noticed, maybe you noticed too, that the quality is not that great in this image, and I grabbed this one from Wikipedia. Yeah, here's the how to get your stuff back to Windows 7. Yeah, that's the big topic when it comes to system recovery. I was about to save this picture, which is a higher resolution version of that same picture, into my pictures directory, which is this. And, well, I guess I'll put it in there now. This is a higher resolution, 1024. But also there's something else too about this, which is that it doesn't indicate, sorry, it does indicate, but it doesn't. What this, like how big this is, there's no reference point that this could be the size of an apple, for instance. You couldn't tell. But it is explained there in Turkish. And nobody's gone to the trouble. Maybe I can, if I can log in here. I don't know if this thing has remembered my password. Maybe I can add that. That's all you gotta do is go to Google Translate, and it's pretty obvious. Okay, there we are. What you do is you take this text, which is in Turkish, go to Google, click here, and leave this on detect, and it'll figure it out. Turkish detected. All right, now I don't know about this part, Soforo. That could have some meaning. Oh yeah, that's just a place. This part we already have. But this is the part that should at least be included. That gives you an idea. Now this is 16 milliseconds following the blast. I just want to add that to the English description. Now, where is it? Where is it? Oh, here. I'm trying to figure out how this works again. That. Okay. So there's 2 opens and 2 closes and 2 and 2. Okay, so it's in here. So if I just put a space, put in. Right? The viewed hemisphere's apex, when they say. Highest point, whatever. I'll have to say in this, I don't want to say at this point, because that doesn't make sense. Which point, what do you mean point? At this point in time, but that's too wordy. Now, I'm supposed to say, wiggle, thing, to, minor edit, preview. Okay, that's right. The wiggle just says who did the editing. Okay, sounds good to me. That's what it means to be a good citizen. How about your fellow citizens by going to Google Translate like anyone could have done, and add that little piece of information, which really lets you know have an idea about how fast that thing is expanding. So that's 200 meters, and it's 16 milliseconds, so you can work out what that speed is. It's pretty darn fast. And at this point, there's a firewall, like an expanding ball of fire, and there's a shock wave front. At this point, they're pretty much in sync. But in later images, you see them separate because the shock wave is moving actually faster than the fireball, and so it blurs. But it's quite clear at this point. But this is not that new image. I would have to go and add it to my wallpapers. I don't want to do that now. Maybe I'll take another pause later on. But I wanted to get on to this topic hopefully the topic of the video, which should be saying, it's another reference to Steve Maguire, who, by the way, happened upon this site and left a comment. And he has a website. Where is that? It wasn't working at the time, but it might be fixed now. Let's see. Steve Maguire is the one who wrote that book, Writing Solid Code. And it's quite funny because when you look up Steve Maguire in the Google images and Writing Solid Code, and I think maybe plus might add Microsoft or something, you see my face show up, not his. Well, you see his, but it comes later. Okay, this might be it. Yeah, so he has this website here, Writing Solid Code, 20th Anniversary Edition. And it wasn't working before. Well, maybe it's working now. No, not yet. This is just a blank page. If you look through the Google cache, you can find out. Last week it was fine, but the server changed, and apparently the change hasn't been picked up by most domain name servers, so you can't see it. Anyway, I'm sure it'll sort itself out eventually. It's a legitimate page, just happens to not be available. Anyway, at one point, in fact, I discussed at some length it turned out to be this tutorial number 121. Oops. Yeah, this is it. 121. I talked about the title of this video, which comes from his book, and I have it printed in here though, with a neatening up. There it is. The 2 critical questions whenever you find a bug in your code. No, I don't even need this. I had it especially hidden here in the system tray. I don't need it. Save some precious memory. Yes, how could I have automatically detected this bug, and how could I have prevented it? And in that scenario, this is a video of a video. I was talking about, go back, this thing, calling this function, forgetting to call this function in WinPro, right? And I came up with a way to at least detect it and alert myself to when I've made that mistake. And ultimately, now that bug has been has fallen into the second category. Now it's prevented because you don't have to call that function anymore. It gets called automatically. It gets called automatically because the window gets subclassed by the system tray manager, and it handles that event on its own, and we never have to hear about it. And so that's prevention, and that means that if you use the system tray manager, that bug simply cannot show up. Now, moving along to this program, I noticed a bug with this one. And it's a very strange bug, because it is, as bugs can be, intermittent. And it seemed like everything was fine, and I had a kind of a guess as to what it might be after taking a look at it. First I had to sleep for a few hours, but it has to do with this help documentation. While that is taking its time to come up. When I would put the help file in the system tray, it didn't get the bubble text. It was always blank. And then sometimes I would do it, and it wouldn't be blank. When I initially tested it, it wasn't blank. And then I thought I'd fixed it, thinking that it had something to do with something else. But after thinking about it a little bit longer, I realized that that couldn't possibly be the reason. And one of the things I noticed, looking at this, or stepping through the code, was that this thing is one of the few cases like that downloader and like the virtual dub program that has two windows, two visible, what are they called? Thread windows? Like, the downloader is a better, no, you can't see them both. In virtual dub, I'm going to select some file, big file. movies. That's sort of coming back to, I don't know. Okay, no. I just want to get it doing something, anything doesn't matter. And I don't want to, I just got to make sure as well that you never want to mischeck or else you're asking for trouble. Okay, good enough. Because uncompressed will eat up your entire hard drive in no time. Alright, so now I start saving this thing. Then I put that here. Well, now when I run this program, there are two entries, right? And that means that's the case where there are two of these top level windows associated with the same program, but which have they're both visible, and you want to get rid of both of them, and you want to select one or the other. And the one that you want associated with the bubble text is the one that you select. Okay, so you see that percentage is going up, and all that's working fine. Okay, so now delete that. Now this program, Document Explorer, doesn't come up with a list of two things. But, as I found out in the debugger, in fact, there are two. And the reason you don't see two is because during the process of adding things to the list, if I see that even if the window is visible and top level and everything, if it has no text, I don't add it. I don't allow that as a selection. But that shouldn't matter, because I've selected the one, and I know with 100% certainty that the H-wind that is going to be the one from which the bubble text comes from is going to be the one I've selected here. And then I go here and there. See? Oh no, okay, no, that's the fixed version. Okay. So now that wasn't working. It wouldn't come up at all. And as I saw in the debugger, well, it wasn't that a failure to retrieve the text or anything. It was that there were two windows, and one of them had no text. You want to see them. You can see them. It's not that hard to find them using this. It's this window. It's called Internet Explorer _hidden. It's visible, and it's part of this same process. F8 thread ID CE8. Same thread ID. Okay, both of these are the same. Same process ID, same thread ID. So they belong together, and even though it's unnecessary, I hide this one too, not knowing that it's there, but you can't see it. I don't know exactly how big it is. Yeah, it doesn't even have any size. So the rectangle, right? No size. It's invisible. It's already hidden, but simply by virtue of the fact that it doesn't have any size. Now I had my suspicions. I suspected that probably there was a bug, not with the sysman thing, because that's all been locked up pretty solid. And looking at the code, whenever it's two things, where are we now? there's an enumeration that happens. If I can find it. Yeah, this here. No, not that. This one. Just as before, I get the thread ID associated with the handle to window of the main window I want to hide, right? And then I enumerate through them, and the enumerator hides anything that's visible. Okay. And then I call this function. And I assume, well, probably this function is not working right. It's not. This is supposed to return true if it managed to. If this thing is at the head of the list, this function returns true. Okay. If this thing is not at the head of the list, then this function returns false, and then I add it to the head. So I assume that this didn't happen, and so that there was a bug maybe in its move to. And in fact, that's exactly where the bug was. Otherwise, everything's fine, and there are no bugs in here, and that's good. Now on to the bug. Now I want to show you. Well, I wish I could. Well, let me show you my history. Can I show you my history? Let me see one. Let me show you the history. PS list. Okay. I just want to show you the last version. If I can. I might have done two, I think. No, that's not it. There. Move to. This one doesn't have move to. Maybe this one. Move to anywhere? Anybody see a move to anywhere? No. Okay. That's small. Either I never checked it in, or it's here. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Now this brings me to, first of all, the second topic. What I want to first let me just unless you've already guessed, right? This isn't the original code that I wrote down. I changed it, and I changed it for a specific reason. I'll just copy that. Okay. U-test. Okay. Here's what I had first. Move to head, right? Like that. Whoops. Something like that. Nothing to do with tails. Alright. So here I have a function that moves an object to the head of the list if it finds it. So first it It tries to find the object. If it finds the object and that position is not the head position, then it removes it from wherever it was, and it adds it to the head, and then we're done. Now that's a function that you know is perfectly fine. There's nothing can go wrong there, right? Okay. And it is true. I can't see anything wrong with this. Assuming we have to assume that all these functions work properly. Assuming that that's true. If we found it and it's not at the head, remove it from where we found it and add it to the head. Otherwise, if it was at the head, otherwise, if we didn't find it, right, then we return false. Or if we did find it, but it wasn't at the, but it was already at the head position, then we return false, right? That means that we didn't move. This is not exactly right. False is what you want to return, and that tells the, no, it's not what you want to return. Okay, well maybe it's got another bug. Because the only other cases where if pause was not false, I never had a case if pause is the position is not found, then we didn't find it. Now, if it's already at the head position, right, then we should return true. So this is not the right return value, it turns out. It should return this. It should return true in the case where we found it, but we didn't have to do anything, right? So if it's not null, yeah, okay, so there you go, that's another bug. But that's not the bug I wanted to point out, and that's not the reason for that other problem. The reason for that other problem was because what I wanted to do was, well, okay, I can see this code would be exactly the same if I wanted to move something to the tail of the list, right? So instead of making up a new function and copying the code and having to synchronize them, I figured it'd be easier to just, okay, we'll just do this, and we'll have a bool, be heads, right? And then we have if heads, whoops, and head, and the rest is the same, right? Oh, now this has to be split out. So if B heads, we want to get the head position, otherwise but other than that, the function is the same, right? This is just a restating, essentially, of the same thing in terms of tails. Now, whenever I have a function like this, I'm immediately unhappy, right? Because this is what another person sees when they see a line using this function. Let's see now. my list dot move to some item, right? My object true, right? And what do you mean true? True what? Move to where, right? It doesn't say anything. That's the problem with these Boolean arguments. Is that you can just say true, and everyone, and the person who's writing the function is happy enough because they can see it. Well, fortunately, there is no such thing as my list. Go back to it. Come on. IntelliSense. It will show you the name of the variable name, and then you would see the heads, right? But we're just looking at this line. Somebody else who's not writing it at the moment has no idea what this true stands for. So instead, what you do, standard thing, right, is you replace the Boolean with an enum type called tails, right? You can call that ht, and then now what I had originally was this. Believe it or not. And now, so now, this Boolean was already called ht, turns out. I didn't have to change any of that part. Actually, it was in capitals. I don't know why. No, it was small letters. I changed the capitals to indicate that it's not a regular type. Okay. Now that worked. And I tested it. I tested it, I tried it, I made a list, and I moved something to the head, and moved something to the tail, using the enum, and everything was fine. Later on, turns out, I decided, well, it was called heads or tails, why don't I just put heads first here in this list? Okay, fine, everything compiles, and I didn't bother to test that minor change. Not realizing that that minor change reverses the function of the way that this function works. It makes it do the opposite than it used to do, right? So A, not only, here's another rule that's also in his book. 1, always step through your code. Always. Can't be emphasized enough. Always step through your code. Always test. Run your unit test for every change you make, no matter how insignificant. Also in his book. I didn't do that. If I'd run my unit test, I would have caught the bug immediately. But, okay, I didn't do that. I failed to do those things. But, now on to the famous 2 questions, which, what have I done? I lost it. 3. Ask, how could I have automatically detected this bug? Okay, now you have to do this on every bug you find. Both questions. So this is really a 2-parter. How could I have prevented it? Okay. Now, this sort of thing, especially with Boolean things, this sort of thing comes up all the time. What I'm trying to do here by changing this from a Boolean to an enum is to prevent people from making mistakes, and that part worked. In the code, right? The specification is correct. That's been forced on the user. So they've done the correct thing, and that part worked. So I've prevented all bugs wherein somebody passes the wrong value for the Boolean. However, I have by doing that, I introduced another bug. I'm trying to prevent one bug. I introduced my own bug. And how do I prevent that from occurring? How can I safely do this and make sure that I don't I don't wind up in a situation where all I got to do is flip these two around and my function suddenly dies. One solution, of course, is to do this. True. Don't rely on the fact that these two are coming out different, right, is not enough to ensure that this function works. Because of the way the function is written, ht has to have a non-zero value in order to get heads, right? So I could do 1 and 0 will work if your compiler complains. 1 and 0, that will still succeed. So that's one solution. But I may forget to do that. Is there a way I can make absolutely sure that no matter how whatever I do, however I construe this function, that there's no possibility of me accidentally flipping the behavior because of this Boolean value? And I thought for a while, and I came up with an answer, and it works. And in fact, I've got the heads value just for fun equal to false. Now here's the thing. I'll probably use a ton of time. Sec. I've used a ton of time. So what I'm going to do is leave it for you as a puzzle. And the puzzle is this. Here's this function. ht is essentially acting like a Boolean, b heads. Right? What I want to do is define this heads or tails such that the person using this function doesn't need to change their code at all. I'm going to fix it in here, completely in here. I want to define this heads or tails. Doesn't have to be an enum, could be something else, in such a way such that this becomes a syntax error, and that this becomes a syntax error. That is, define a heads or tails, type of something any way you like, and if you can, make it specific to this particular class, TS-list, right? Because it's already being cast that way, right? So if you made a global thing, then someone could then we're back to the somebody not necessarily using the prescribed enum, right? So it's got to have the property of this that this enum has, in which that it's tied in with the class. I want to turn this into a syntax error, so that means that whatever the thing is passed in here cannot be placed in any conditional expression. That is, we want to force it to be compared against something, okay? And there should be only two possible values, and that means that whatever your thing is, it's going to have to be compared against one or the other of those two values, and so therefore this line will be forced to be. You'll have to write it this way in order to get it to compile. Okay. Now, if you can force that, then you can't make a mistake, because unless you can't read English. This says if heads, then heads, right? Same here. It's going to have to be either, or it could be a function. Doesn't matter. Is heads, something like that. But something that somebody will pass in exactly the same manner. So this code doesn't change because this is correct. But disallow this, whatever this is, to be in a conditional. That's similar to assignment, the warning assignment within conditional. If A equals B, do something. And you can tell that by the indentation here that they meant this, right? Now there's a warning. If you have it on, it'll tell you that you made an assignment within a conditional. Now sometimes you do want to do an assignment within a conditional, and the way to silence that warning when you really do want it is to do this. Compare this against something else. Something like that. Right? Now then that silences the warning, and it also allows you to do your assignment within the conditional, and there's no extra code added. The optimizer just optimizes that extra bit away. Okay, so that's your puzzle till next time. See you.